We have here another mind-twisting chess endgame white to move and win. As you can see, the pass pawns of white are just 2 steps to become a queen, but the pass pawn of black, well, not bad. Pressuring the white king, you cannot just leave the d4 pawn or else a goodbye opportunity for white. So if you're ready, let's go and study this endgame. If you think pushing the pawn is the key move, yes, you may consider that one. Congratulations. However, the problem is the correct square for the king. Because even you push the pawn and you misplace the king, you may lead the game to a draw one or a lose one. So that's very interesting, right? So king to f7, and let's say you move king to e4, which is now a draw one. After of c5, how will you now support this one to become a queen and stop this one to become a queen? So you have now two problems here. Supporting your on pass pawn and stopping the pass pawn of black. Now, if you will insist your way, unfortunately, you're gonna lose this game because black will get a queen with a check. You have to move away, and there is no way now for white to help the e7 to become a queen, of course. That's two queen now for black. So even you move the e6 or f6, f7, if you will miss the next move of white, it may lead to a draw or a lose game. You may also consider the f6 to f7. Please be reminded that that is the difficult way to win the game. So we will talk that one later on. I will show you the difference of e6 to e7 and f6 to f7. But for now, what is the perfect continuation after pushing the pawn? You may push the e6 to e7 or f6 to f7, but the criticality is the king move. I will give you the clue. You will not go king to e4 if there is no c5 on the board. So you have to wait for the c5 before you go king to e4. Once you move your pawn as your first move. So let's see. e6 to e7. If you will not go king e4 without the c5, where you gonna go? King to f3. A king f7, then king f3. Let's say the black will go c6, king to f4. Wait for the c5 before going to e4. How about king to e8? This is a bad idea for black because of the king e5 attacking the d4 pawn as well, going to king e6 and unstoppable checkmate by the pawn, and which is a very not so good way to checkmate yourself. Checkmate pawn. So instead of going king f7 to king e8, c5. Perfect timing to go king e4. Because this pawn cannot move here, well, that's a clear list for black. So force to go king e8, king to d5. The idea is to go king e6 and checkmate once again. King f7 and king d6. Perfect timing now to help the pawn because white will get the queen first with a check. So capture after queen e2. This c pawn cannot protect the d2 pawn. Let's say c4 capture. Easy win for white. So let's go back. How about the f6, f7? Why that line is very complicated to win? f6, f7, king e7, and now king to f3. Let's say c6, let's just play around, king f4, c5, king e4, king f8, king f5, same idea, you gotta go f6 for checkmate, but black will go king g7, and you have to move around your king going here e7 to help the f7 to get a queen. So king e5, if black will go here, obviously that's a bad move, checkmate by the pawn. So d3, move here. If king to f8, king d7 will get a queen first. Even you capture queen, if you move here, queen. All right. So after of the King to d6, d2, d7, queen without a check, which is good for white. Queen also for white with a check. G6, move here, check, and then you can go king to f8, queen d6. How about king g7, queen g3, king f7, queen b3, queen e5 check, king g4, king g7. You have to find a way to move around and avoid the check. Let's say queen a4, e7, and queen e8, queen f6. There's no check. How about c5, queen g6? So you have to avoid the check. So let's say move here, queen h6, and then after king g2, queen g6 check. So this is how you win the f6 to f7 board. Very complicated way. So the easiest way, of course, e6 to e7. How about the king as the first move? Well, that is good also. However, if you move the pawn in the wrong timing, you may draw the game. For example, king to e4, and then that is forced, right? c5, and then king to d3. So you have to move around your king, king d8, and you go for a check, for example, check. And this is a draw game, no matter what. Black will just go king to e8, not f7, king to e8, and then let's say king c4, king to f7. That is the perfect way to go 7, because if king d5, d3, king move here, d2, d1 queen. So even you move the king as your first move and move the pawn, wrong timing, you're gonna draw or lose the game. There is actually a complicated line. You can go king e4 without a c5, but you have to timing the push pawn and the you have to count the movement of the king. I'll show you how. King to f3, let's say king f8, and then you can now go king e4, c5, that is forced, king to d3, so you have to move around, king e8, then e7, let's say king to f7, king c4, king to e8, and here the king takes c5. The idea, of course, is to make sure to land here on e6. For example, d3, king to d6. If push pawn, obviously that is checkmate, pawn, unstoppable. So king f7, and then king to d7 after d2, queen. Because you cannot just go after king takes c5. You cannot go king f7. White will just capture the d4. So this is forced. The d3 is forced. However, king d6 result has not changed. Same idea. King f7 and move here. Checkmate. Sooner or later.